Hi, I'm Billy the Kid and you're watching The Good Stuff, and today I'm going to go over the fundamentals of pistol shooting with you, what a good shooting stance looks like, and hopefully keep you safer by sharing some of the safety rules. So let's look at those first. 3 rules for NRA's safe gun handling. Notice always is in all capital letters and underlined, okay? So you want to always be practicing these. First rule is always keep the firearm pointed in a safe direction. Why would you think that's the first rule? Well, if you break rule number 2 or rule number 3 and the gun has you have a negligent discharge with the gun, you're not going to hurt anything because you had to point it in a safe direction, right? Rule number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. You would think this would be a common sense thing, but it's not. Naturally, when people pick up guns, their finger wants to go to the trigger. It's just how the gun was designed in mind and how we are as people. So we have to practice these things and get them drilled into our head to make us safe. So always keep your finger off of the trigger until ready to shoot. And then third, but not last but not least, okay, we are always going to keep the gun unloaded until we're ready to use it, okay? So what would ready to use it be? It would be conditional. So if you are putting on your firearm for self-defense and leaving your home to go run errands or whatever, do you want it loaded? Yes, absolutely. Having an unloaded gun on you whenever a gunfight kicks off puts you at a grave disadvantage and can get you killed. All right, but if you have 15 guns sitting in a safe in home and no one's doing anything with them, should they be loaded? No, absolutely not. That's just being unsafe. You know, anybody can get a hand on one of those firearms, and even though we should treat all firearms as if they were loaded, not everyone does that. So it's up to us as responsible gun owners to keep those firearms unloaded until we're intending to use them. All right? So now, fundamentals of pistol shooting. What would be the fundamentals? All right, well, the first one is going to be aiming. Aiming consists of 2 things, sight alignment and sight picture, okay? Your sight alignment should have equal height with equal light protruding from the sides. What does that look like? Well, I have another handy illustration here for you. There's your sight alignment. Okay, and then your sight picture, the other part that aiming consists of, your sight picture, is how your sights look in relation to your target. Okay, and here's another thing I'm going to share with you. You see how them sights are below the target? That's called 6 o'clock hold. Okay, a lot of your center fire pistols like Glock, Springfield, and such, they don't use 6 o'clock hold. They use center hold. So you would actually hold those 3 sights on target. The front post of your sight would be covering the spot you want to hit on your target. That's called center hold. If you do like I have here and you hold the sights below the spot you want to hit, then you have a pistol that has 6 o'clock hold, okay? So we got sight alignment, sight picture, aiming. That's your first fundamental. Second fundamental, and I'm giving you these in the numerical order in which I think they're most important, okay? So aiming, trigger control, not trigger discipline, all right? Trigger discipline is always keeping that finger off of that trigger, right? Trigger control is how you press that trigger to the rear to get it to break off that shot, all right? That has an extreme amount to do with your accuracy. Okay, aiming is number 1 because obviously, you know, if you can't put the sights on target, or if you're not looking at your sights, then you're being very dangerous. But with trigger control, just too much finger over onto the trigger can cause you to pull your shots off to the left. Too little finger or fingertip at the bottom can pull you to the right or low right. It matters a whole lot how you're using this finger to break that shot off, okay? The third one is going to be your hold control. Hold control is how much movement you get when you stick the firearm out in front of you. All right, this is called the arc of movement. It's impossible to make it 0, okay? But it isn't impossible to make it very, very minimal. So just through practice and all, you want to just practice getting that gun real still for those seconds while you're hanging out there. All right. And look, when you're on the range, if you stick your firearm out there and you're practicing this stuff and you get a little shaky or a little tired, take a break. You know, I believe 8 seconds is the most. They say you want to hold a firearm out in front of you before you start to experience some fatigue, is what I should say. All right. So, aiming, trigger control, hold control, breath control. Breath control is you're controlling your breathing. So whenever you're breathing, it moves your body, right? Your lungs are expanding, they're contracting. All this movement contributes to movement in your firearm out in front of you. So if you can, whenever you take a nice breath, hold it for a second at the top and try and break your shot. And time these things, okay? So you're already, as you're breathing in, you're already applying some pressure to your trigger. You found that wall and you know it's there. It doesn't take much more to break it, okay? I hit the top of my breath, I hold for a second, I continue pulling through. All right, same thing with the bottom of your breath. I'm breathing out. I hit the bottom of my breath. I've already been applying pressure to my trigger. Whenever I hit the bottom of my breath, I hold it for a second and I break off a shot, okay? Next one would be your follow through. Follow through is important because it drills in all the right things into your head. Now, the NRA teaches follow through. It is the continuation of the application of the shooting fundamentals through and immediately after the shot. Follow through enables a shooter to integrate, maintain, and continue all the shooting fundamentals before, during, and immediately after firing the shot. So, in the beginning, when you start and you're new, you should definitely be practicing your follow through. Okay, so your follow through is going to be you got your grip, you got everything, you squeeze, bam, gun fires, you hold the trigger to the rear, and then it cycles because you fired it, and then you let off of the trigger until it resets. All right, and then do it again. Squeeze, 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 bang, gun goes off, it cycles, which resets your trigger. You're holding to the rear, and you're paying attention to your sights. That shot comes off, you pay attention, you get them back in alignment. All right, you hold your stance. Okay, you don't let everything fall off because you fired off a shot. You follow through with it. Okay, but if you're not a beginner and you're learning your trigger and things like that, you don't want to hold that trigger to the back. You want to get off of it as quick as you can, hit that reset, and bring your finger back to the wall and have it tight. All right, but that's all things that are going to come with time and practice. All right, so we got our aiming, we got our trigger control, we got our hold control, our breath control, and our follow through. That's the fundamentals that you're going to be using up here and up here, right? So stance. We'll go over stance on the range so you can see me better and understand a little better, all right? So let's get on down to the range and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, we're here on my range here at my house. I want to go over range conditions with you. It's important, even though I'm here alone and I'm practicing by myself, it's important for us to practice proper range conditions and to understand them. So when we go to a public range, we're safer in keeping everybody safer and ourselves safe at the same time, and not giving any range safety officers a heart attack. So right now I'm in hot range condition. I'm going to go into cold range so I can remove my hearing protection. When you are in cold condition, you can go down range, you can go past the firing line. This edge of this table is my firing line, okay? You cannot touch your ammunition or touch any firearms. And when in cold range condition, I'm breaking a rule right now by touching this, but when you are in cold range condition, RSOs like the firearm to have the action locked back with it cleared, no magazine in it. Okay, so they can walk by and see visually very quickly and easily that that firearm is unloaded. After they've checked all the firearms down the line by walking by and looking at the actions open, then they'll say, range is cold, you may go down range. So then you go set your target, stuff like that, and then come back. Once you come back, you can't just start loading magazines and things like that. Everybody will acknowledge that the range is now hot. So then it'll go from the beginning, hot range, and everyone will call hot range, so the range safety officer knows that everyone acknowledges the range is hot. And then, only then, can you touch your magazines and touch your ammunition and your firearm. Cold range condition, must have eyewear at all times on any range, but not hearing protection. Hot range, eyewear, and hearing protection is required. So I'm gonna go back hot so I can handle my firearm and all, and we'll get into some mistakes new shooters make. All right, common mistakes for new shooters. A lot of new shooters get into the habit of using their slide stop as a release. There's a reason this is called a slide stop and not a slide release. That reason is because even though it can be easy to hit that button and get it forward, and that is quicker in a competitive setting, it's very bad for a defensive mind. And the reason why is if you get into a gunfight, you're going to lose your fine motor skills, okay? You might not be able to find that button with your thumb in the midst of a gunfight. So new shooters should be practicing when they load or reload their firearms, reaching over the top, grabbing the slide, and then slapping themselves in the shoulder. And the reason I want you to slap yourself in the shoulder as a new shooter is because I see all the time in class, people come over, they grab this, and then they ride it forward. This will not allow the slide or the action to do what it needs to do and seat that cartridge properly, and it could cause you a misfire. So, over the top, grab, slap yourself in the shoulder. Let that thing slingshot forward. I don't want you to grab up at the front of the gun because it's not necessary, and that could get you, you know, muzzling yourself. We don't want to muzzle ourselves. Next one I see new shooters do a lot is they stick the gun out there and they stick it low like this, and then they pull their head down to their sights. Don't do this. Keep your neck straight, keep your head straight, and bring those sights up to your eye level. All right. Another one is trigger finger placement. So I'm still unloaded and still have my magazine block. So your trigger finger right here on this first pad, right there, I want you to use the middle of this first pad. Okay, I see a lot of new shooters, they want to wrap their finger around or stick too much finger over, and what happens is when they pull on that trigger, it pulls the gun down and left, and they'll have low left flyers a lot. People with right flyers or low right flyers, what they're doing is using too little finger, putting just a hair finger or even on just the tip of the trigger. Okay, you want to utilize this whole trigger, and you want to press it straight to the rear with the middle pad of that finger. All right. So let's get into doing some shooting and see how that goes. All right. Something I practice to keep myself safe is I only load the amount of rounds that I want to use for that shot string or that drill. So if I'm doing a 5-shot shot string, I load 5 bullets into my magazine only, and I fire my shot string or my drill. And then what that does is leave me with an empty gun, which is gonna make you safer, all right? So for now, starting out, my new shooters, I want you to follow along with me. Do some dry fire first, okay? And what dry fire is no ammunition, no live ammunition whatsoever in the gun. You're just gonna practice your stance that I went over a bit ago, and I want you to start at either a high retention ready like this or a low ready like this. And what I want you to do is I want you to just practice pressing out and acquiring that sight picture. All right, so all we're doing is pressing out, acquiring that sight picture, and then squeezing or pressing that trigger straight to the rear. All right, I want you to do this for 5 minutes and then come back to me. All right, and what this will do is if you're using too much trigger finger or something like that, you will be able to see what your sights are doing. With live fire, you don't get to see that action because of the explosion and everything going on in the recoil. But with a dry fire, it doesn't move except for where your faults are, and you can see those real time and diagnose yourself. Not only this, but if you're anticipating the shot because you're nervous, and that's okay, everyone usually is when they first start shooting because it's an explosion going off in front of your face. This will help mitigate those nerves so that first shot doesn't get jerked or pulled all over the place because you're anticipating that shot. So dry fire for 5 minutes, come on back. All right, now that you got your dry firing out the way, I got me 1 round loaded. I'm gonna start off with 1, and I want you to do the same. Whenever you go to load a magazine, okay, load your rounds, and then I want you to index your magazine with this finger on the end of your cartridge. Okay, and the reason why is because it's natural for that finger pointing to find its way to where you want to go to load your gun. All right, so when you do any reload, a speed reload or whatever, you always want to index that finger because it's going to allow you to find that mag well, slam up in there, and get going. All right, so we're loaded, our range is hot. I'm going for my paper plate, 1 shot, center mass. Just make sure you got it all good and press straight out. I also want you to notice that I'm going to do this slow. There's nothing about speed here. What we're doing is we're practicing all these fundamentals we went over and building a foundation to get it right each and every time. Once we can get all these things happening consistently and naturally, it feels natural, we're building the neural pathways in our brain to remind us to do it the same way every single time, only then will you start to build speed. But speed with guns does not come from just going fast. That's how mistakes happen. You have to do it right every single time, over and over and over and over again until your body automates, okay? So, to build something like that, this is what we need to do. I have a shot timer, and I'm gonna be using it just for the beep to tell me to go. You can say in your head, go, or you can have a friend say, shooter ready, go. All right. All right, what I did there is I don't like to waste movement, so whenever I fire a shot and it leaves my gun empty, I imagine if I had a spare mag and I reloaded. But I don't want you to do that being new. All I want you to be focused on is what you just seen me do. I want you to press straight out, get your sight alignment and your sight picture, practice your hold control, your breath control, and slowly press that trigger to the rear. What we're trying to do is just build these fundamentals and doing this the correct way. All right, so we'll do it again. We're at the high ready position. Nice and slow. Press out, get those sight pictures, squeeze that trigger straight to the rear. I hit the same exact hole I'd fired off in the first time. All right, and then a little practice there. I'm reholstering. You can set it on a table if you don't have your holster or whatever, but what I'm gonna ask you to do if you're new is not draw from the holster yet, all right? We need to practice this presentation right here. We need to get this down and get those sights coming into focus down before we move anywhere else on this, all right? So do your 10 rounds like that, and if you get all 10 in your paper plate, move to drawing from your holster if you feel comfortable. All right, I'm gonna move to drawing from the holster, and I'm gonna do 3 shots, 2 to our plate, 1 to our index card. No speed, okay? What I'm trying to do here is nice, slow and deliberate, methodical. Get my sight alignment, sight picture, hold my arc of movement to a minimum. I have my good stance, and I just want to press that trigger and get all 3 of my shots onto my target, okay? That's my goal, just to hit all 3 of my shots. Now that we'll be moving from drawing to holster, I'm not going to load it just yet because I'm going to show you what a draw should look like. What you want to do is when you withdraw the gun from the holster, you want to barely clear the muzzle from the holster, and then you want to drop this elbow back here. Boom. See how that works? So we clear the holster, drop our elbow. It rotates directly in front of us when we do this. We build our grip here, and then we presentate. So clear, drop, press, all right? All right, so we hit all 3 of our shots on our target, 2 to our plate and 1 to our card. Practice this again, practice this again. If you feel like it's too easy, give yourself another 2 yards, shoot from 5 yards. Or you can introduce a little bit of speed. Speed is going to show you where your errors are, and it's really hard to know how fast you can go without messing up if you don't have a shot timer. That's how a shot timer is a useful tool, because it will show you how fast you begin to mess up at. So if you don't have a shot timer, don't focus on speed so much as accuracy and just getting all your hits where you want them to be. I hope this helps y'all out. I hope it makes you a better shooter and a more responsible gun owner. And you know, you help us all be safe by doing that. So I'm gonna load up 10 quick rounds using my Maglola speed loader. You heard that? Speed loader. I love this thing. Another thing you can do to keep yourself safe is, like I was saying earlier, or might have mentioned before, count out the amount of rounds you plan to fire in your hand. Okay, so you don't load too many or too less. So I want to fire 10 rounds right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, if I was pulling straight from the box, just loading, or straight from my ammo box and just loading, I may lose count or may not know how many I loaded. But I want to shoot 10, I counted out 10, and I'll deliberately load 10 and be correct. If you don't have one of these and you like to shoot, you should really invest the $20 or $25 it costs for one, because I'm telling you, it will save your thumbs. All right, I got my magazine loaded with my 10 rounds. My range is hot. I'm loaded, and now I'm gonna shoot on a standard target, going for A-zone hits. I'm gonna do, let's go 7 to the chest, 3 to the head. A little more complicated. I need to be counting my shots as I fire. All right, as a new shooter, you don't have to worry about any of this. But what I do want you to do is take your time and practice being deliberate and methodical in your presentation. Get the sight alignment and sight picture and press that trigger through to the rear. All right, I'll let y'all watch this shot string. All right, we had one low B hit, but not too shabby. And that was in 6 seconds, 6:45. Bam. No. But anyways, y'all keep following along. Please share my stuff if it's helping you. And please check out my wife's shop. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I'll have her links in the description below. She prints all my backdrops. She can make anything with vinyl, anything man, I mean, it's really amazing. She really can make anything. So if you're curious about what I'm talking about, click on her links and you could get whatever you want custom made, from cornhole board wraps to coffee mug to stainless steel tumbler to ornament to, you know, we can do big election signs, perforated vinyl for windows in front of businesses, whatever. But supporting her helps support me and what I'm doing here, and I really appreciate that support.